So the reality is there's this money that's coming in. What do you do about it as that pile starts to stack up? Mick Mulvaney, I'm going to start with you because the president, and welcome back, the president's talking about rebate checks. You could call them stimulus checks. I'm guessing the former the guy who started the House Freedom Caucus isn't a fan of stimmy checks. Am I going out on a limb there?
Yeah, you say tomato, I say tomato. Let's go down to some basic economics. When you give people money for doing nothing, okay, when you give a stimulus check, it's inflationary, period, end of story. The Republicans used to remember that. A lot of them still do. It was one of the reasons they were so firmly against a lot of the Biden policies. Inflation is too much money chasing too few goods. If you give people more money and they don't at the same time create more goods or services, the price of the goods and services that are there are going to go up, period, end of story. By the way, I count myself amongst the folks like Bill Maher who said that I thought tariffs would be inflationary by now, and they're not. I do know this. Stimulus checks are meant to be inflationary. That's what they do.
What should he do with it, Governor?
Pay down the debt. And look, we still have $2 trillion in a yearly deficit. We have $40 trillion.
So you say,
I mean, this is real money.
So you say pay down the debt. $320 billion is less than 1% of the national debt, 0.86%. It's 17% of our $1.9 trillion budget deficit.
And this is why the American dollar is weakening across the world as the standard reserve. This is why the most fiscally irresponsible body in the world right now is in that building in the U.S. Capitol, because they just spend and spend.
But
and
you know
you're going to drive inflation. You're going to drive cost issues for American families. Sending a rebate check does nothing.
If they send a rebate check, that gets precisely votes. I'm sorry, if they pay down the debt, it gets no votes, right? And that's part of the issue with that.
Yeah, I would challenge that all day long. I balanced my budget, and I got elected I was really popular.
No, I know, but I'm saying if they
wicked popular.
If they use the money to pay down the debt, I mean, that's not going to. So
every time we have a small influx of money, we're going to throw gasoline on a fire and create a massive fiscal problem here.
It's the difference between a policy solution, which the governor has, and a political solution, which is I got a check for $1,200. This is $1,200 more than I had before. That's the problem. What do politicians do usually? Well, the thing that voters like more. I mean, like you can. I'm with the governor that it can work, but I think generally speaking, trying to explain the long-term and even medium-term now effects of our debt and deficit problems is way more complicated than being like, here's $700, Blake. And you're like, well, I didn't have this $700 before.
We have a case study in this. We have the pandemic, and we have, where it said economic impact payment and then Trump's name, and how people remembered how they were so well off at that time just because of that. And even though experts argue you were not that much more well off than you are right now, there still is a conversation that people think they were because they received that money and felt like Trump had to do with it, even though he was against all the bills before they passed.
So what do you do with the money?
So you pay down the debt, and then you have Jerome Powell lower the interest rates, and all of a sudden our debt is looking a lot better because our interest on paying down the debt goes much lower.
Mick, that would be inflationary on top of inflationary,
No,
would it
that's not true.
Generally speaking, cutting interest rates is expansionary in the economy. If you do it at a time of declining inflation, you can get away with it. You shouldn't do it during a time of inflation. It can make things worse.
So so now I'm thinking to myself, the last time Donald Trump put tariffs into effect, it was the first term, right? And what did Joe Biden do? He kept every single tariff in the book and then added on to it. So now I'm going a couple steps down the road, which is, okay, let's just say these $300 billion, come year after year after year. Democrats now say, wait a minute, what about the care economy? What about funding this? What about funding that? Then all of a sudden you basically have a new government program, no?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what...
See? That put a smile on your face, did it not?
I mean, I think that's what... we're asking Americans to pay down the debt through, Venmo or PayPal. I think we have to figure out a better solution than where we are now. I also think, contradictory to all this, Pete Hegseth just sent some money over to fix Trump Qatari jet and fix that up. And so all this money that he's getting personally for his library by suing ABC and CBS, like we talked about earlier, he can also put that towards the debt if Americans are being asked to.
I still go back to the governor's point. I remember a time, I mean, I'm 49, I'm not that young, but I'm also not that old, where like both parties talked, certainly Republicans. John McCain's entire 2008 campaign was based around, we are giving a debt deficit to our grandchildren that is unsustainable. Paul Ryan got to be speaker and then got on the ticket
Right.
Because of his we need to reform entitlements. The abandonment of it, the Democratic Party hasn't picked up the sort of mantle of that, but it's a giant
balanced budget amendment.
Yes.
It was for a balanced
Yes.
budget.
So
the American people are very worried about the debt.
Yeah, no, I agree. I talk about it more than anyone at
The
this,
car
at this time.
crash is coming. 8 years from
trust me, I
now, it
talk about
all
the
goes
time.
bankrupt at the same time.
So here's what I think, in part, the new reality is going forward. Tee up the soundbite from the president today on baseline tariffs.
We're going to be setting a tariff for essentially the rest of the world. And that's what they're going to pay if they want to do business in the United States. Because you can't sit down and make 200 deals. I would say in the range of 15 to 20%.
Mick, is that the new norm?
Probably, but again, the money can't be sustainable. You can't have it both ways. You can't put a tariff on to raise money and put a tariff on in order to encourage the rebuilding of American manufacturing. That's because eventually what happens is substitution. You don't buy the stuff from overseas anymore because you don't want to pay the tariff. You buy the stuff from the U.S. One of those things is good, there's no question, but you can't have it both ways. And that's been one of my biggest difficulties with the sales job the administration's been doing on tariffs since the very beginning.
Is this the new norm now?
We're going to build things in America, and he has his tariffs. We're bringing in the money from the tariffs.
But to Mick's point, you can't say grab bag everything.
It's going to be a process, Mick. You're a smart guy, but this is working. Let's let it work its way out. We've got time.
This is so interesting coming off the conversation about the big, beautiful bill that adds trillions to the debt, but then this small thing. It's like Trump policy versus traditional fiscal conservative policy. It never blended, it never will.
It's the best example of the Republican Party of 2012 does not exist anymore. It just doesn't. I mean, it just doesn't at all.
Still
Right.
here.
Governor Sununu. We got Mitt Romney, Governor Sununu.
We got two. Three.
But it just does. I mean, it's literally, with the exception of lower taxes and conservative justices, it really, everything that was at the core of that party is no longer at the core of the party.
Let me leave you with this, to Bill Maher's point and to Mick's point. I heard you sighing there about basically the policies and tariffs. What if you're wrong?
About the tariffs?
Yeah.
Oh, look, I think we're going to have an inflation problem come later this year. You're going to have an unemployment problem come later this year. Okay. You're going to have all these federal employees that are still not even on the unemployment rolls. So you're going to have it's not a recession, but you're undoubtedly going to have a softening of the economy. The president has to overcome that with an immigration bill and all these other opportunities that he has while the Democrats wallow around in fire.
We'll leave it there. It's, by the way, Josh Hawley today, Senator, a Republican senator, put out a bill today for $600 rebate checks.
Hawley 2028.
For the Democrat Party. There's your number one Democrat.
Come on, Josh.
Appreciate it. All right, other side of the break.